Welcome to the new series of Speak Up, the television and social media platform for Freemasonry in New Zealand. I am Barry Rushton, your host, and thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight, our first guest is Libby Twiss, who received a Freemasons postgraduate scholarship to continue her studies in agribusiness and product management. It's an interesting journey from living in Auckland down to Lincoln University. Following on from Libby is a man who knows all about diamonds, gems and valuations. An early friend of underwater explorer Kelly Tarleton, a man who also has several species of sea creatures named after him, Bill Palmer. And closing out the show, of course, is our regular contributor Graham Houston with another enthralling episode about a famous Freemason. And my first guest tonight is Libby Twiss. Hello Libby, nice to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.
I believe you had a bit of a tough job getting here. I know you got stuck in traffic, everything stopped, you had to bail out of the taxi, jump on a lime scooter, and lo and behold, you've arrived safely.
I've lived to tell the tale.
You have lived to tell the tale. Congratulations on you being awarded the Freemason Scholarship, the postgraduate scholarship.
Thank you very much.
$10,000. It's a nice little award, yes. I have to admit. Now, can you remember, how did it feel when you first knew, because other people applied for it, when you knew you got it, what were the first feelings that you had?
I mean, obviously, you apply for these things hoping you'll get it, but there's always a wee bit of shock and surprise. And then I guess I was just very, very grateful and kind of a sense of relief, I guess, knowing how it would help me kind of go through the year. So.
Now, you grew up in the Big Smoke in Auckland here,
yep.
right? But then you moved out to, I believe it was Wanganui, right?
Yep, yep.
Tell us a little bit more about your time in Wanganui.
So in year 10, I went down to boarding school at Wanganui Collegiate, which is obviously, you know, 5.5 hours away from home. And it's quite different to going to school in Auckland. It's a lot smaller, neighboured by a lot of, you know, farms, and I guess it was a great experience. It was awesome. I met a lot of different people that I probably wouldn't have met if I'd stayed in Auckland, and I definitely think it kind of shaped me and helped push me on the journey that I guess I've followed up until now, which probably would have been very different if I hadn't gone there. For
sure. When I went to America to study, I was by myself, and meeting these people and actually going to their houses and being there for Thanksgiving and that sort of stuff, just fantastic. Now, you must have had a bit of that too, I'm sure, right? Being going off, because obviously didn't come home in the weekends, so would get invited out to one of the girls, sign out for leave, and would go roving around their farms on their buggies and everything, which was awesome. So you finished the actual high school stuff, I'll call it high school.
Yeah.
Looking around, I guess, for universities to go to.
Yeah.
Tell us why, and I guess why not, too, why you settled on Lincoln.
It was somewhat a process of elimination. I guess there were a few unis that I didn't want to go to. I knew I didn't want to be in Auckland because I wanted to, you know, stay away from home. And I was going to open days and nothing was really exciting me at all, and Lincoln was the last open day that I was actually going to, and so I was kind of a bit worried that if I didn't like it I was going to take a gap year because I didn't really want to start something that didn't appeal to me. But the minute I stepped onto the campus, I guess, and had a look around and went to the open day, it just completely blew me away. Everyone was so genuine and so friendly, and even though they had hundreds of people going through, any questions you had or anything, it actually felt like they wanted to help you, and it definitely made me want to be there.
It felt like a fit.
Yeah, 100%, and yeah.
Now, you finished a bachelor's degree in agribusiness, right?
Yeah.
And as a food marketing too as well?
Yeah.
And you mentioned, I believe, during that time that you are keen to see that the New Zealand companies differentiate themselves a little bit, right? What do you mean by that? And give me some examples of what you mean. So
that's kind of a huge aspect of what I learnt in my degree, and that is, like you said, that especially for, you know, agribusinesses and food producing or selling companies, New Zealand needs to really, in the future and now, innovate and differentiate themselves, because if you look at it on scale, we're not big enough to compete on cost. You know, we're always going to be undercut. So what New Zealand does well is creating good quality products that people love, that are innovative, and it just keeps products relevant and ensures that they sell and kind of can gather the premiums that they deserve, because we're never going to be able to feed everyone. We're not big enough, but if we can aim for the right markets, then New Zealand will continue to prosper, I guess. Leaving aside your studies, I mean, the reason that you got the award, and as I mentioned that in one other program, it's not just your academicness, it's about the community
commitment that you have as well, and I believe that you have got quite a bit of a presence in the community in the Lincoln area, right?
Yeah.
I'll just read some of the things. You won the Students Association's Golden Award. We might talk about that in a second. Yeah. Also, too, that you were a recipient of the Prime Minister's Award. I think it was last year, 2018. You went to Brazil, and
yeah.
I'd like to touch on that too. And there's also, too, that you're part of the community. What's called the Lincoln Community Board,
yeah.
and in actual fact is chairperson, I believe, or for setting the strategy for 2022. Is that right?
Yeah, so in charge of the strategy.
That's fantastic. Tell us first of all about the Golden Award from the students, because that must be a good little one.
Yeah. Okay. So the LUSA, which is Lincoln University Student Association, the Gold Award. You get nominated for showing leadership and community engagement.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I was lucky enough to be nominated by my peers or maybe a member of staff, but it was for my work on the board, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, and so they're just recognising all the students who, you know, put in a lot of effort and try and have a positive impact on their community.
Congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
With regards to the Prime Minister's Award last year, what's the biggest take-home moment or something that sticks in your mind about your trip to Brazil and what you were doing there? What were you doing there at the time? So
it was 5 weeks, fully funded to go over, a group of 16 of us from uni, and you did a summer school paper. So we went around 3 different universities in Brazil and just learned all about the agribusiness and agricultural systems in Brazil in comparison to New Zealand, and it was amazing. It was such an incredible experience. I'd never really been anywhere like that. I've kind of just done, you know, Australia and just islands, but Brazil was such a different world. Biggest takeaway.
Did you feel safe?
Safer than I think we thought.
Yeah.
We definitely were wary of, you know, that it's not New Zealand and there are areas and times that you wouldn't go out, but I think everywhere we went was quite student-based, and yeah, we felt really well looked after. Yeah, it was, and we wouldn't be out, you know, after dark or anything, but even when we were, it was so fine. So that was really nice to kind of not go over and be worried. But I mean, the biggest takeaway was their culture. It was just infectious, I guess.
Wow.
You'd see, we went out for dinner one night, and all of a sudden tables were cleared, and they were all dancing, just incredible dancers with such rhythm and passion, and we just were terrible, but it was really cool to see, and it kind of makes you reflect on sometimes we don't quite have that kind of culture back here all the time, so it was nice to kind of go to another country and see it.
Now, you know, I do have to ask you this question only because it just makes sense. This award you've got, you know, they're from the Freemasons charity. It's a tiny little sum, $10,000. What does it? How does it help you on your way? I mean, I know that you have got this goal to be sort of come out of school debt free, and that in itself is an absolutely worthy ideal. So obviously it's going to help you along that way. But anything else it does for you along the way? So
yeah, like you said, I have managed to, difficult at sometimes, but get through uni without a student loan.
Fantastic.
I have had my tuition fees paid, and then I've just worked part-time throughout uni and over summer, I guess, so worked really hard to be able to do that because I thought, why not? If I could manage it, might as well. But so it definitely helps with that. I mean, it helped with accommodation. Obviously, I'm not from Christchurch, so I flat and everything, but the main thing that it helped me do was be able to continue to focus on my masters and make sure that my primary focus was working on that rather than having to pick up heaps of hours at work to be able to, you know, balance it. And it's definitely given me the freedom to kind of have a bit more time to look into things that I wouldn't have had. I think that's quite a common theme of the awards people that we've had on here, you know. Anybody in your family or family history been involved with Freemasonry? No, actually. No? But father, grandfather? No, but it's funny. It's funny you say that because my grandma and my mum came to the presentation of the scholarship at Parliament, and they absolutely loved it. And they said that, you know, all of the speak up stuff that you're doing is really, really important because obviously people don't know what's going on, and so Mum said if she was a boy she'd join, but she can't. But yeah, so no family history, but who knows? I've got a brother. Quite so.
Well, Libby, on behalf of the Freemasons, congratulations on your award. It's fantastic, and we wish you all the best with your passions and your dreams going forward, and much success with the rest of your studies. Thanks for coming on tonight. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
Good on you. My next guest is Bill Palmer. Bill, welcome. Thanks for coming along. Bill, you knew from the last series that the intention was for these programs to talk to interesting people who have done interesting things. The more I find out about you, you have had such an interesting life. I mean, started off being a watchmaker up there in Whangarei with someone else we know from Whangarei, a degree in gemology, sensational, successful jewellery appraiser, underwater diver and adventure, good mates with the late Kelly Tarleton, discoverer of marine life with a number of species named after you. What a remarkable life you've had. Wow. How good's that?
Good.
Good, it's more than good. Bill, with all these things that you've done, you know, first of all, I'd like to, for you to stick your little jeweler's hat on and tell us all about these things, the diamonds. Every girl's best friend, one of those rascals.
Well, in 1956, around about there, General Electric actually synthesised diamond, so they made a lab-grown diamond. Since then, it has developed over probably the last 8 to 10 years. It's got very, very, very big. That's one. And
so that's a lab-grown diamond?
A lab-grown diamond, which is a diamond, exactly the same as an earth mine diamond, except it's been grown in a laboratory.
Wow.
Earth mined and dug out of the ground.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Same colour, same clarity, same weight, same physical, optical, yeah, exactly the same. So it is a diamond.
Tell me, they say that the most perfect diamond, chemically and structurally, I read somewhere that the top diamond was a red diamond. Was that?
It is.
Is that true?
It is.
So what do they mean by that?
Well, it's a red diamond. So nature has formed it, and instead of it being white or yellow or blue or pink or green, it's red, like a ruby.
Like a ruby.
And there's a 98-point red diamond, that's just under a carat, 0.98 of a carat, sold for over $1 million US about 10 years ago. They are as scarce as rocking horse doo-doos.
Tell us, what's anything in your memory, what's the best diamond that you actually see in yourself? I mean, do you see them consistently at the top end of the range, or?
No, not really. I suppose the largest one I've seen recently was a 10-carater, which is quite a large size. And it was a colour E, which is just one down from the top. And it was just missed out on being flawless. So it was worth $1 million or two.
So now your main business now, of course, is appraisals, right?
Yes.
Basically.
Gem testing and appraisal work and diamond grading.
So if someone brings in a diamond bracelet, and says, "Will you appraise this for me?" What are you looking for? Obviously, you're looking for the colour. Are you looking for their expectation, what they think it's worth? How do you put together the end result?
The first thing you ask them, do they have any information about the piece when it was bought, where it's got legitimate paperwork that says what's in it. Other than that, we have to grade it in the mount. We don't take stones out. No. So we have to compare it against master stones to see where it is, especially if they're small. It's quite hard to do. And you look for any colour, any trace of colour or lack of colour, and then you look for the inclusions that are in the stones, how well they reflect the light back, which gives you the cut. And then once you do that, you calculate the weights, marry all those things together, price per carat, and then total up with giving you a retail margin, and then work on the mount. Is it cast, handmade, assembled, production components? All those things have to be taken into account. Yeah.
Wow. And at the end result, do you think most of the people who bring it in, I won't say like a pawn shop, but just say something like they think it's worth more than that actually is? Or are they quite surprised when you come back and say, this is a very valuable piece?
A lot of people are surprised. A few of them think, oh, I thought it would be worth more than that. Mum told me it was worth more than that. So, you've got to be able to talk to them.
And so you can spot a fake a mile away, correct?
No.
Oh, is that true?
I've got to test it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Looking at the worst thing an appraiser can do is look at it and say,
this is
that's that.
Yeah, okay.
When you've got to do the test to prove what you feel.
Bill, thank you for that, mate. Now you can swap your hats now. I want you to take the jewellery hat off and I want you to put on the other hat, which I think that you've got a passion for, or have had, and I'm sure you still do have, and that's your diving, your exploring, your marine work that you've done, I think, for a long, long time, and the great friendship that you had with the late Kelly Tarleton. Tell us about how that all began for you.
I bought my first scuba set in 1956 from Wilkinson Sports Depot in Whangarei. Cousteau had just launched a thing called the Aqualung. So I bought one. I think the bottle cost me $13 and the regulator cost me about £13, and the regulator cost me about £25. And I went diving with a friend of mine, Terry Muir, out at Matapuri through the gap, and no training, put these things in our mouth, read the book, sat on the bottom for about 10 minutes till we sucked all the air out of the tanks and came out and smiled, and it started back then. Yeah.
True. That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Bill Palmer of Whangarei, a jeweller by trade, has been diving at the Knights for a number of years. He was one of the early ones to establish this fact. He has found no less than 13 species of shellfish over the years that had not been previously identified in New Zealand. 3 have been named after him. Bill, were you surprised some years ago to find that subtropical conditions did exist at the Poor Knights?
Yes, certainly we were, particularly. We've been diving there for about 12 years now, and back in '62, after a trip up to the islands, I found the first cowrie, the true cowrie that had been found in New Zealand out there. And of course, when we sent this away to have it identified, because we didn't know much about it ourselves then, this sort of indicated that there was going to be something else there. And since then, there's been 3 true cowries, 3 different species of true cowries found out there.
You had an eye for detail on things. You saw things that other people didn't see, right?
Watchmaking teaches you to look at things in a different way. And when I went to New Caledonia in '61, I think it was, with Kelly and a few of the other guys, that's when I first saw my first cowrie shell. When I came back, within a week we're diving at the Knights, and we're diving in Cave Bay, at about 120 feet, and I saw a cowrie shell on the bottom, and I thought, this is strange. I popped it inside the mask and came back up, and I can remember somebody on the boat saying, "Cowries," when I came out, so a few jumped over the side. I found a couple that day. They were both fresh dead, and they had hermit crabs in them, so I shot them off to Dr. Baden-Powell at the Auckland Museum, and he confirmed that they were cowrie shell, tropical species, only ever been found basically up around the Kermadex, the closest to us, although they are found in Australia, this species, Cernisa tomlini, and so that got me going.
You have at least 3 scientific discoveries in the marine world named after you.
Yes.
Perhaps the most famous one, of course, is this absolutely beautiful red urchin called, what's it called again?
Diadema palmeri.
Diadema palmeri, which I love the little name at the very end. You must have been just unbelievably sort of startled when you first saw it and thought, wow.
Well, I did, because I'd seen diadema, not that species, in Fiji and New Caledonia, and they're black. And I had a torch with me, and when I when I wasn't looking at it, it was black. When I shone the torch on it, it went bright red and yellow, with blue fluorescent lines on it. Eventually, I told Dr. Alan Baker, who wasn't Dr. Alan Baker then, at the Dominion Museum, who was studying echinoderms, and he asked me to send it down to him, which I did. Put it in a bin, plastic bin, oxygen, salt water, Air New Zealand, down to him, and he said it's a new species, and he said
that's yours,
and he named it after me.
Isn't that fantastic? You must have been absolutely floored, and how fantastic. Good on you, Bill. That's just absolutely. Tell us about a little, very quick thing about your late friend Kelly Tarleton. I mean, from what I've seen of him, what a character of a man.
Amazing bloke. He came up, he was a post office technician, and our shop backed onto the P&T.
Wow. And
Terry Muir and Kelly and I found out we were mutual divers with a backyard of businesses, and we started diving together, and yeah, and he did very well, and he died too soon.
47.
Yeah.
Way too soon. Well, you must have really enjoyed his friendship.
It was great.
I've seen some photos of you out in boats with him and diving expeditions. What a wonderful time. Now, Bill, you've been in Freemasonry for a considerable time, right? And I say that nicely. You know, I do say that nicely.
43, 44 years.
You know, and we in Freemasonry talk often about the values of Freemasonry. You know, how do you feel yourself that we put those values into practice?
Well, I think it's, everybody else has said it, and I suppose I'll have to say it. It's something that when you get into it and you find out about it, it's true that it teaches good men to be better. And I've enjoyed the friendships that I've made and still making. And the thing I really enjoy now is seeing the younger men that are coming, and I say younger men, 18, 19, 20 years old, that are coming in and taking
active roles
in Freemasonry and loving it. And you talk to most of them and they say it gives them something which is outside the norm, and it gives them a chance to dress up, put a collar and tie on.
Yeah.
And there's certain parts that are quite formal, and they love it. They really love it.
What do you think the lodges themselves should be aiming for and doing?
I think that there should be more family inclusion in the younger members, because most of those younger guys, my kids have grown up and got their own kids, but a lot of these guys that are coming in their early 20s into their 30s have got young families, and you've got to somehow, rather than keep dragging them away to go to a meeting, a practice or actual meeting night, to actually have lodge meetings other than that, and we used to do it in Whangarei, where you could include the families and the kids as well.
Well, I think we are seeing that, aren't we? I mean, I look around and I see that a lot.
We are.
One final thing, Bill, and thank you for coming again tonight, is that you've seen how Freemasonry's trended over the years. Where do you think it's going to be in 10 years' time?
With the way that the newer members are coming on, and with what the present Grand Master has put in place, Speak Up Freemasonry, I've always tended to do that. But now people are speaking about it more and more, and less afraid to speak about it, because there's nothing that you shouldn't speak about.
Of course.
And I think that that's done nothing but increase the awareness. People just don't understand how much charity work, the millions of dollars a year that New Zealand Freemasonry gives away. It's really amazing, and people just don't know about it. We hide our hat under a bushel.
Great. Well, look, before you go, I might get you to look away so I can actually just put this sort of iPhone over here. Well, it's been absolutely great having you, mate. Thank you very much. What a great life and the career you are having. Good on you, mate. Thank you.
Barry.
And rounding out the show tonight is our regular contributor, Graham Houston, who's going to talk about the life and times of a famous New Zealander who lived in Taranaki, an area that I lived in for a while too. It is good to see you, Graham.
Thank you, Barry.
Who are we speaking about tonight?
We're talking about Sir Harry Atkinson.
Atkinson.
A 10th Premier of New Zealand,
Wow, okay.
with a couple of interesting twists, which I'll come to just shortly. He was born in England, and with his brother, when they were about 22, came to New Zealand following a previous brother, William, that had already come and settled out here in the Taranaki region. They arrived out here and immediately bought farmland and became farmers and bushmen in that Taranaki region. Harry built a cottage there, one of those early settlement cottages, all look pretty much the same, and he named it Herworth, after the place where he grew up as a boy in England.
Herworth.
Now, Herworth. Yeah. It became part of a little settlement there, and I think there was about 6 houses there, fairly much the same early settlement places. Now today, if you go to down Taranaki, around New Plymouth, you can go visit that cottage. It's on part of the Taranaki Tourism Trail, and is the Herworth Cottage. Now, that was handed over to the Heritage New Zealand in about 1967, and when they handed that over, they started stripping the walls, and what did they find? They found graffiti. They found graffiti from the New Zealand wars, and it just showed that they had graffiti in those days, not just here in this generation as well. Now, he apparently and appeared to be a no-nonsense sort of a guy, straight, plain-talking guy, who didn't tolerate fools very easily. When the New Zealand wars reached Taranaki, he became one of the first volunteers. And he was a bit of a natural leader, and he was one of the early members of the Taranaki Rifle Volunteers, which gained a reputation as becoming a very formidable militia force.
Yeah, they were.
He was a captain in that militia, rising to the rank of captain. And if you read some of the historical reports of some of the battles that he took part in, you will see that he was very much a go-getter and very much a tough man. But at the conclusion of the, well, not even at the conclusion of the New Zealand Wars, but when the New Zealand Wars were on, and coupled with his farming, he also took an interest in politics, and that's when he entered Parliament, and he became a MP for about 9 terms.
I believe also too, when he was in Parliament, well, he was actually becoming more famous within Parliament. He was actually the colonial treasurer, wasn't he? He was, because he was quite frugal, right? He didn't want people to spend anything.
No, he was a colonial treasurer for about 10 years, and he was seen as a cautious, prudent man. Yeah. However, he did lose a bit of his popularity at times there with some of the radical ideas he had, such as he proposed the National Insurance Scheme, the welfare scheme, in about 1892, and the leasehold farm land scheme as well, and people were a bit nervous about that. Then he went on to become Premier of New Zealand, the 10th Premier, but he did it 4 times. And some of it was pretty short. And he continued as Premier till 1891 when he was succeeded by John Ballance. So he was a great contributor to the development of New Zealand in forging its growth as a colony, to forging the growth of Taranaki. And there are many markers in New Plymouth and around Taranaki which will bear the name Atkinson or bear the name Herworth, all dating back to that time of Sir Harry Atkinson.
He must have probably been then a Freemason from England, I'm guessing, or something along those lines.
Right, he was a Freemason from England, having joined over in England, and you know he never really got all the credit that he really did deserve, because he wasn't a flamboyant, flashy sort. Yeah. Some of the stuff, such as abolishing the provincial councils in New Zealand, he did that. But it was Julius Vogel that sort of got that. So he quietly went about things without being flashy. So he was a prominent man in New Zealand and a prominent Freemason.
Well, a great choice. And when I go back to New Plymouth, and I haven't been down for a long time, I'm looking forward to going back, I will look for that.
You look for that?
I will hunt it out.
You do, and so will I. That's my hometown, and I'm very proud of that area, and I know Herworth Cottage very well.
I had an office down there, Devon Street
You did?
West.
I know the place.
Mate, good choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Well, that's our show for this week. Don't forget, if you'd like to know more about Freemasonry, and you won't find it in a Dan Brown's book, but you will by going to the Grand Lodge website, which is freemasonsnz.org. In the meantime, if you've been thinking, planning, or asking questions about joining Freemasonry, we have a website for this very purpose. It's simply welcometofreemasonry.co.nz. We hold a regular dinner experience where you can meet other Freemasons before making a decision to join. So once again, thanks for joining us. See you next week.